Welcome to the fourth class in the study of chapter 3 of the Yoga Sutras. After the end of this class, we will reach the halfway point. So, in the previous class, we stopped at this sutra. The sutra is Samskara Sakshat Karanat Purvajati Jnanam. So, what this says is that by direct perception of the samskaras, sakshat karanat means direct perception. So by direct perception of the samskaras, which are the mental impressions, knowledge of previous lives arises. And somebody asked me, actually Lena, who was here, she asked me last class, oh, the knowledge of the previous lives can also be obtained from other ways. So if you remember, the aparigraha, the yamas, one of the yamas is aparigraha, non-coveting. Aparigrahastairye janma katam ta sambodaha. By non-coveting or letting go, one understands the past lives. The Buddha, in fact, during the night of enlightenment, I told you the story. He says, I saw one life, two, many past lives. Okay. And we will, in this context, we will see a similar story. So the story is the story. It's from a Jataka tale, and the story it's called the story of Mahakapi Jataka, story of the great monkey king. Mahakapi means great monkey. So big, great, not only in physical size, but this monkey is also very noble, great, big heart. So this comes in Jataka's tales. For those who have some exposure to Buddhism, there are a lot of these animal stories in the Buddhist mythological tradition, which convey great information, very beautifully done. And this one is a Jataka tale. The word Jataka, Ja means birth. So Jataka means relating to birth, relating to whose birth? Relating to the birth of the Buddha. So Jataka is the name of the entire genre or collection to which this story belongs. So once while residing at the Jetavana monastery, the Blessed One usually refers to the Buddha. Once the Blessed One addressed his assembly of monks on the importance of selfless sacrifice. Okay, he was telling the monks about selfless sacrifice and the long-standing nature of karma. Monks, the Buddha began. His voice was calm and resonant. Do not think that acts of supreme virtue or deep-seated enmity are things of only today. They stretch back through countless lifetimes. Listen, and I shall tell you a story of the distant past. So this is how the Buddha recounts some of his old lives. And usually you'll find, so the Buddha in all these stories, the Buddha might be born as an elephant or monkey, different creatures. The Buddha is a good one. And always the Buddha has an evil cousin, Devadatta. And the Devadatta always tries to kill Buddha in one way or the other in the past lifetimes too. That's why the Buddha says, do not think that the acts of supreme virtue or deep-seated enmity are things only of today. They just carry through the samskaras. So that's why you have to make an active attempt to remove that. Otherwise, it carries through. Long ago, I'll tell you a story, the Buddha says. Long ago, in a dense forest lining the banks of the mighty Ganga, there grew a magnificent mango tree. Its canopy was vast, offering cool shade, and it bore fruit that was large, golden, and possessing a fragrance and taste surpassing divine nectar. So, and a troop of 80,000 monkeys made this forest their home. Their leader was a monkey of immense size. That's why it's called Mahakapi. Kapi means monkey. And he was of immense size, not just immense size, also immense wisdom and a big heart. He was a bodhisattva who protected his troop like a father. Bodhisattva means an enlightened being. Even though born as a monkey, this was like a very noble creature. So he protected his subjects like a father. He knew that the exquisite fruit of this tree, if discovered by humans, would bring disaster upon them. Listen to me, the great monkey king commanded his subjects. Eat or destroy every flower and every small fruit from the branches that hang over the river. Let nothing fall into the water, for if a man tastes this fruit, he will hunt us down. So this is what the king says. By the way, are you able to hear me clearly? Just double checking. Yeah, okay. Thank you. The monkeys, respecting their wise leader, obeyed diligently. But one day, hidden from sight by an ant's nest, a single ripe mango fell unnoticed into the river, and it was carried downstream. Miles away, the king of Benares, he was human, not a monkey king, the human king of Benares was bathing in the river and with his net fishermen. So the net fishermen were nearby. The golden fruit was caught in one of their nets. And the king looked at the fruit. It looked delicious, so he tasted it. He was astounded. Never had he eaten anything so delicious in his life. Overcome by desire, he declared to his ministers, "We must find the tree that bears such fruit, for I want more." Look at his greed. So, leading his army and foresters, the king followed the river upstream for many days until they came upon this colossal tree, heavy with golden mangoes. It was nightfall when they arrived, and the king saw thousands of monkeys sleeping in the branches. He told his soldiers, "Surround the tree." The king ordered his archers, especially, "Do not let a single monkey escape. At dawn, we will kill them all, and we will have both the mangoes and monkey meat for a great feast." As the sun rose, the monkeys awoke to the terrifying sight of hundreds of archers with arrows knocked encircling their home. Panic erupted. They shrieked in terror, rushing to their king. "Master, men with bows surround us. There's no escape. We are doomed." The great monkey king remained calm amidst the chaos. "Do not fear," he reassured the troop. "I will find a way to save you all." He saw that the tree stood on a steep bank with a river rushing below. The only escape was to the far bank. But the distance was too great for an ordinary monkey to jump. Possessing superhuman monkey strength and resolve, the great monkey king climbed to the highest branch. With a mighty leap, he launched himself across the chasm, just barely catching hold of a strong bamboo stalk on the other side. He knew he could not jump back. He needed to build a bridge. So it's not easy to be. Other monkeys can't do that. What he did, and he did it with a lot of effort also. So he found a long, sturdy rattan vine and tied one end securely to his own ankle. He gauged the distance back to the mango tree. Then, with vine trailing behind him, he gathered his strength and leaped back all the way across the river. So what you see, he grabbed, but what he realized was he miscalculated the length of the vine required. He realized to his horror that he miscalculated because the vine pulled him back. So even though he was able to grab on, he could have jumped all the way onto the tree. The vine was not enough, so it was pulling him. So he barely managed to grab a branch, and he could not. He has to. The only way to complete the bridge was with him, the monkey king. Gritting his teeth against the strain, the monkey king gripped the mango branch firmly. He stretched his own body out over the rushing river, pulling the vine taut with his leg. He made himself the final section of the bridge. "Quickly," he shouted to his troop, "run across my back." And the vine to the other side. Do not delay, for my strength will not last forever. Terrified by the archers below, all the 80,000 monkeys began to stampede. So they ran over the king's back one by one. Their small feet were sharp, and their combined weight was immense. His back was stone, muscles were screaming. Finally, all of them crossed except one wicked monkey, selfish and cruel. This was Devadatta in the past lifetime. He stepped onto the bridge and saw the king exhausted, bleeding, and hanging precariously between life and death. The wicked grin spread across his face. This was his chance. Instead of running quickly to safety, the wicked monkey climbed onto the branches directly above the king. With all his might, he jumped, landing squarely on the center of the king's straining spine. A terrible crack echoed over the water. The king's back was broken. The wicked monkey used the momentum of his cruel jump to bounce to the other side, scurrying away without a backward glance. The human king, saw the entire spectacle from below. He was awestruck by the monkey king's incredible leap, his ingenious bridge, and his unflinching endurance as thousands trampled him to safety. And he had witnessed a horrific act of treachery at the end. Deeply moved by the animal's nobility, the human king's heart was changed. Archers, stand down, don't shoot. Bring that great monkey down gently. Do not let him fall into the water. The soldiers carefully retrieved the broken body of the monkey and laid him on a bed covered with royal robe. The human king knelt beside the monkey, his eyes filled with tears of respect. Great one, the human king said. You were their king. Why did you offer your body as a bridge? Why did you endure such pain? These were yours to command, not to serve. So though dying, the great monkey king gathered all his breath to speak the final words of wisdom. "O king," he whispered, "it is true, I am their leader, and because I am their leader, their lives are my responsibility. A true king does not rule to be served. A king rules to serve and protect his people, even at the cost of his own life. My body is broken, but my mind is at peace, for I have secured the safety of my subjects." Having taught the human king the true meaning of royalty and sacrifice, the great monkey king passed away. The human king gave the monkey king a great royal funeral. Then, after that, the Buddha paused, letting the story sink into the minds of his monks. Then he concluded, "Monks, at that time, the wise and the noble monkey who sacrificed themselves for his troop was I. And the wicked monkey who broke my back and then fled was none other than Devadatta. Thus you see, the seeds of virtue and enmity are sown long ago." So this is a famous story from the Jataka tales. Okay. All right. Now, so you're probably still in the story land. Let's move to the sutras. So next sutra is siddhi of reading others' minds. It is deep empathetic insight. Pratyayasya parachitta jnanam. By saṃyama, on the process of cognition, that is pratyaya, of one's own mind, the knowledge of another's mind arises. So pratyaya is a technical term. Can anybody define what pratyaya is? Pratyaya, chitta, we've seen this in the first class. What is chitta and what is pratyaya? Sumitra, Anu, Amy, anybody wants to say?
Chitta is the screen. You gave the movie theater analogy.
Yeah.
Where chitta is the screen in which the movie is happening.
Yeah.
Pratyaya is the contents that are exhibited in that screen at that point of time.
Yes, very good. So pratyaya is literally the movie and chitta is the movie theater. Okay, you can think of screen, but there are sounds also. So let's include everything. So movie theater is chitta. Very good. So it is very crucial to read the sutra in conjunction with 3.20 because Patañjali gives the exclusion criteria. You can read others' mind, but there he gives the exclusion criteria. You can't read everything. The sutra says that highly advanced yogi possesses the ability to know the thoughts, emotional states, mental processes of other people. It is deep, a profoundly deep level of empathic insight. Okay. And so the exclusion criteria for reading others' minds is nachatat salambanam tasya vishayi bhutatvat. What Patanjali is saying, however, this does not include the supporting motive behind the thought in the other person's mind, because it was not the object of meditation. So, nacha tatsa sa alambanam means with support. Alambana is support. Nacha, but not tat. Tat refers to, tat is that. That what? Referring to the knowledge of the other's mind gained in 3.19. Sa alambanam, na sa alambanam, it with support, accompanied by the object causing the state. Because of what? Tasya, of that yogi's concentration. Avishayi bhutatva. Bhutatva means being. Avishayi means not the object of the yogi's concentration. Tasya, of the yogi's concentration, not object. So the support, sa alambanam refers to what is the thing that causes alambana support. Support, literally here it means it is the basis for the state of the mind. If the mind is angry, let's say, the mind is angry, the mind is thinking these thoughts, but what is the exact reason behind, you cannot know. The yogi cannot know what caused the person to be angry, but just the person is angry. So Patanjali defines this like a scientific document, exactly what is causing this. So Sutra 3.19 explained that by performing saṃyama, which is intense concentration on the mechanism of cognition, pratyaya, of one's own mind, yogi can perceive the state of another person's chitta. And 3.20 clarifies the limitation. Yogi knows the state of the mind, but not what triggered that state. Okay. And this is the movie theater analogy. We saw that, right? The consciousness is reflected on the screen. Okay. Why is the sutra important? Swami Hariharananda gives two reasons. Scientific precision. You know that Patanjali is demonstrating that yoga is a precise psychological science, not vague magic. The powers, siddhi, operate according to strict laws of Prakriti. You only know exactly what you focus on. And the next other important thing is vairagya. This limitation is actually a protection for the yogi. The goal of yoga is liberation, which requires detachment from the dramas of the material world. If a yogi automatically knew every gossipy detail of why everyone around them was happy or sad or angry, they would become hopelessly tangled in worldly affairs. So it's like a blessing for the yogi. Okay, so we've seen the first portion, time, communication, and minds, knowledge of time, communication, and minds. Now we will go to mastery over the physical body and form. 3.2, next two sutras. Okay. Now look, as I told you, it's like science fiction. Siddhi of invisibility, antarthanam, kaya rupa saṃyamad, tatkrahya shaktistambe, chakshu prakasha samprayoge, antardhanam. Antardhanam means invisibility, disappearance from view. Kaya rupa saṃyamat, by performing saṃyama on the form. Kaya means body, rupam means form. So on the form of one's body, tat grahya shakti stambe, the power to be perceived is suspended. Stambam means suspension. And upon suspension, stambe means upon suspension, what? Tat grahya shakti stambe, the power to be perceived, that is the light reflecting on you, goes to another person's eye, and the person perceives your form. that is suspended by blocking of this prakasha asamprayoge. So chakshu prakasha asamprayoge, the light that is illuminating is and going into the eyes of the observer is blocked. Okay, by performing saṃyama on the form of one's body, the power to be perceived is suspended, and by blocking of this reflected light from the eyes of the observer, invisibility is obtained. Okay, the yogi manipulates optic properties of the body. The yogi performs saṃyama specifically on the kaya rupa, the visibility quality of their physical structure. And what's the action? That's the focus point. The action is through this intense mastery of subtle matter, the yogi affects grahya shakti. Grahya shakti means the power to be grasped. Every material object has an inherent passive capacity to reflect light and be seen. The yogi causes a stamba or suspension or blockage of this capacity. And what's the result? The body temporarily loses its ability to reflect light in a way that carries its form. And the consequence, because the body is no longer reflecting light normally, the required contact between the observer's eye and the light bouncing of the object is broken. So the way we are seen is light reflects on us, goes into the eyes of the observer, and that is cut. That is the siddhi of invisibility. Now, Patanjali also says, I'll come to this. He says, siddhi of disappearance of other sensory signals also takes place in a similar form. Etena shabdat yantardhanam bhuktam. In this way, etena, in this way, shabda adi, shabda adi antardanam uktam. So it becomes shabda yantardhanam uktam. Shabda adi antardanam becomes shabda yantardhanam. So there is this dya. Okay. In this way, shabda, which is sound, and other sense perceptions like touch, taste, and smell, antardhanam, the disappearance of them, is also explained. The disappearance of sound, etc., are also spoken about or explained. Okay. Now, Vyasa notes that the same principle applies to the other senses. By saṃyama on the tanmatras, the subtle elements of sound, touch, taste, and smell, the yogi can prevent those qualities from being perceived by others. Essentially, a yogi can be present in a room but remain unheard, unfelt, unsmelled. So, and Vachaspati Mishra emphasizes that the yogi isn't literally destroying the sound or the form, but rather inhibiting the power of being perceived. By arresting the radiance or vibration at the source through mental willpower, the yogi ensures sensory data never reaches the sense organs of those nearby. Okay. Now, this disappearance, all these siddhis, at this point, I wanted to tell you this. Great masters sometimes display siddhis. Okay. And there's sometimes it's done for a reason. They're illustrative stories, to example, the profound aspect of spiritual teaching. Great masters perform siddhis to illustrate tangible reality from abstract theory. Because all this could look like theory. When they use it as a pedagogical tool for teaching. A sudden, inexplicable demonstration of power acts as a shock to the materialistic mindset. It shatters the illusion that the physical universe is the ultimate reality. So that is the common thing that we have. What we see is what we believe. And because our mind is so gross, we are not able to tune into meditation and see the subtler objects, or you can't see the subtle objects, but you begin to understand and feel the subtle realm in meditation. Most people can't do that. So they think what we see is what is there. How can there be a prana? How can there be things that cannot be seen? But just because you cannot see doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That is why sometimes enlightened masters do this to um, uh, to convey some information. And there are many such examples that are talked about in the um, uh, in the Puranas. Okay. Um, Great siddhas or spiritual masters delivered discourses on the nature of reality. They often describe these concepts that contradict our sensory experience. To bridge this gap, they utilize siddhis as profound pedagogical tools. Okay, one example in this is, so most of you have heard about Swami Vivekananda, I assume so. Swami Vivekananda, he was catapulted into fame. He was a monk. Tirelessly, he worked to spread meditation and Vedanta. He gave a talk at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, which became extremely famous. And that's why he was known as the monk from India in 1897 or so. But he didn't start off that way. He this example, he was attracted to a teacher. The teacher's name was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. There was something about the teacher, some radiance. This young monk was compelled, but the monk wouldn't believe whatever. And he was not a monk then. He was just a young man, Narendra. He said he was interested in learning from this teacher, so Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So Narendra, who would later become Swami Vivekananda, was a brilliant, highly educated individual, intellectual. He was educated in the British system, very fluent in English and all that. He demanded logical proof for everything and deeply doubted the existence of anything beyond the physical realm. No amount of philosophical debate could convince him of the subtle realm. One day, to move Narendra beyond beyond mere intellectual argument, so he was sitting at next to at Ramakrishna's feet. Ramakrishna was sitting on a stool or something, and Narendra was just arguing. So at that time, Ramakrishna just lifts his leg like that, and he touches Narendra's the Agnya chakra. So he lifts his leg, and with his toe, he touches this point, Agnya chakra point. Narendra then went into like a transformed state. Instantly, Narendra's normal sensory perception was suspended. With his eyes wide open, he saw the walls of the room and the entire physical universe whirling and vanishing into an absolute void, leaving only pure consciousness. Terrified, he cried out, "What are you doing to me? I have parents at home I need to take care of." So Ramakrishna then laughed and touched him again, restoring his normal perception. So that single terrifying demonstration of the subtle realm overriding physical reality did what years of discourse could not. So it proved to Narendra the undeniable existence of the Atma. He can't see the Atma, but the entire experience made him feel that there is things beyond the subtle realm. Okay. Then there are many such stories which are told in the Puranas, and this one is supposed to be, I don't know if it's you can believe it or not, it's supposed to be a real incident, one involving Adi Shankaracharya. So Adi Shankaracharya performs what is called Parakaya Pravesha. Parakaya means para means another, kaya means body, pravesha means entering. So he entered another person's body. So this is one of the most famous incidents in Shankaracharya's life. Adi Shankaracharya was unmatched in his ability to logically explain and debate the supreme nature of the Atma. Advaitam, no duality. There's only consciousness. The entire universe is like a projection on consciousness. Mithya. However, during his famous debate with a great scholar at the time, one of the greatest scholars in India, Mandana Mishra, so he had a scholarly debate. Those times they had scholarly debates, and they would put a garland. So if it's said that the one whose garland begins to wilt is the one losing. The other person's garland, one who's winning, will remain fresh, apparently. Anyway, this is just how it's said in the mythology. But this is supposed to be a real incident, and Mandana Mishra was losing. But Mandana Mishra's wife, Ubhaya Bharati, brilliant woman, wonderful woman, I mean, and extremely brilliant and well versed in the scriptures. She said, okay, you only won half of the debate because the better half is me. You have to win me in debate. So Shankaracharya couldn't say anything. He said, okay, I will accept the challenge. And then immediately, she is sharp. She knew exactly how to trap Shankaracharya to gain this. She said, okay, you are versed in yoga, Sankhya, all these philosophies. You proved Advaita is the only one. But you have not, you are a monastic from childhood. You are a renunciant. You have not seen Kama, that is the treatise on the householder life, and the Kama just means desires. That part of life you've not seen. And Shankaracharya was a celibate monk throughout his life. He cannot break his vows and experience family life. Shankaracharya therefore utilized the siddhi of parakaya pravesha. When he was thinking, what can I do? He says, give me 1 month. I'll find a way and I'll tell you about all the aspects of like worldly life, like family life. He left his own physical body, and he learned that the king of the neighboring kingdom had died. So he enters the king's body, and for a full month he experiences worldly life. Still, he didn't break his vow. And finally, he comes and tells everything to Ubhaya Bharati and wins the debate. And both of them become his disciples at that time. And of course, the most famous example of this showing, so siddhis generally are not supposed to be shown. You have to keep them. If you have a power, you should not show it to anybody. Keep it within yourself. But occasionally, these masters use that to demonstrate something. And in this example, Bhagavan Krishna uses the powers of the siddhis to explain something to Arjuna. So till the 10th chapter, Bhagavan has been lecturing. Arjuna kind of understands, but is not convinced. So there's a lingering doubt in his mind. So for 10 chapters, Bhagavan has been delivers the ultimate spiritual discourse to Arjuna. Then in the 11th chapter is called Vishwarupa Darshanam. That is, he's showing his cosmic form. So he explains the entire nature of the Atma, the mechanism of karma, the temporary nature of the physical body. All that he has explained. Now Arjuna listens, intellectually understands, but experientially he doesn't. That is when, to solidify the Arjuna's faith, Bhagavan says, Pashyame yogam aishwaram divyam dadami te chakshuhu. Pashyame yogam aishwaram. You don't have the capacity to see all this. Your mind is not trained. I will give you divine eyesight. And he grants Arjuna divine vision, Divya Drishti, and reveals his Vishwarupa. Arjuna is suddenly able to see the entire cosmos, the subtle realms, the demigods, the terrifying mechanism of time, all contained within Krishna's form. This staggering demonstration of the subtle and absolute reality, overwhelming the battlefield, permanently removed Arjuna's ignorance. And at that time, he just falls at Bhagavan's feet and says, Namo namaste su sahasrakritvaha sahasrabahopi namo namaste. I salute you from front, I salute you from behind, from all sides, I salute you. That's what Arjuna says. Okay. So this is all about, sometimes siddhis are used to convey something. There is another beautiful story that comes in the Bhagavata Puranam of King Nimi and the Nava Yogendras. But I don't think we'll have time. But one of you remind me, maybe in the next class or so, when we cover adequate portion, then I can tell you the story. Because the questions that King Nimi asks these Nava Yogendras, these great mystics, is fantastic. And these people, they just appear, and at the end they just disappear. So everybody is awestruck because these people, they were all very ritualistic. So India tends to be like that, steeped in ritualism. They don't understand the meaning, the subtler meaning behind a lot of these practices. And the Navayogendras, to show that there are things beyond the physical realm, they manifest themselves over the sacrificial fire as people, and then they disappear. Okay, I will tell you that story, so keep that in mind. King Nimi and the Navayogendras, I will tell you at some time. But now let's cover a few more sutras. Next, it looks eerie, but it's just a statement of fact. It's not to show, oh, if you see something, you're going to die. Death is not a permanent thing. It is just a passage in the cycle. It moves you to the next stage of the Sukshma Shariram's journey, right? So Patanjali says, Sopakramam nirupakramam cha karma tat saṃyamad aparanta jnanam arishtebhyo va. Sopakramam and nirupakramam, sa upakramam. What it means is that upakramam means fastly ripening or accompanied by immediate results. Krama means a sequence or like results. This is sopakramam. Sa means with, upa means near, krama succession. So karma whose merits are near fruition. Nirupakramam, nir means not, upa means near, krama means succession. Karma whose merits are not near fruition. By saṃyama on the stack of personal karma, whether their merits are near fruition or not, or through the portents of death, one can gain knowledge of the time of one's death. Okay? Swami Hariharananda provides deep psychological perspective on the siddhi. He explains that life is essentially a series of experiences dictated by the momentum of past impressions. Your yogi, whose mind is perfectly still, can observe the speed at which the impressions are being exhausted. He emphasized that this knowledge is not meant to cause fear, but to allow the yogi to prepare for the final transition in a state of meditative equipoise. And what are the, so not just on the saṃyama, on the stack of personal karma. Look, it's not just meditation. Some people see the portents of death. And what are the portents of death? Swami Hariharananda mentions a few, or Vyasa actually mentions a few personal portents. When you hear a lack of sound or light. So when you close your ears and you see some kind of a sound, right? In modern science, you have all these hairs, and it's just the movement of molecules rubbing against them. It's creating like some kind of a noise. That is, it feels like a burner. When your furnace turns on, you feel the sound. It's like that. In the yoga philosophy, it is considered your prana, the sound of the prana. When that sound stops, or when you close your eyes, you still see some kind of a light, some pattern, all those things. When those things stop, then it means death is approaching. or portents of other beings like crow, ancestors, all those things. Certain crows, not that if you see a crow, no, it's not like you're going to drive, but when it comes in a way that it's trying to tell you something, when it comes close, a raven, it can mean something. Okay, not all the time, but this also happens when a crow comes. Crows can come to tell other things too, but this does happen. Portents of divine beings. When you see divine beings, portents of divine beings, then it means death is approaching. Okay, then let's move to the next portion. Powers of strength and subtle perception. Saṃyama on friendliness. Maitriya dishu balani. By saṃyama on friendliness, Maitriya, the power of those qualities is obtained. In Buddhism, this is called metta meditation, very famous word these days. It is Maitriya meditation, or loving. In Buddhism, it's called loving kindness. The word literally means friendliness. Swami Hariharananda says friendliness, compassion, and goodwill are the three kinds of sentiments that are recommended. Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Pekshanam. So Maitri, friendliness; Karuna, compassion; Mudita, goodwill. These are the three things for towards good people. And Upeksha is indifference towards the evil people. It's indifference doesn't mean, I think Geoffrey asked this question when we studied this, it doesn't mean ignoring them, but not we have to do the right thing, but not working ourselves with a very what can I say, neutral state of mind, doing the action to rectify the situation. So saṃyama on friendliness, etc. What are the respective strengths of Maitri, Karuna, and Mudita? The strength of friendliness, Maitri, is the total destruction of irshya, jealousy. Strength of compassion is the destruction of krurata, cruelty. Strength of gladness, Mudita, is the destruction of asuya, finding faults in others' virtues. Okay. The story of Vasishta and Kaushika. So, who does Kaushika later become? We've seen the story many times. Who wants to say? Who does Kaushika become later?
Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra, yeah. So, Kaushika is this is the story of how Kaushika was determined to become a rishi. So, in the last chapter, I think we saw Vishwamitra, even after becoming a rishi, he wants to be acknowledged as a Brahma rishi, but others are not acknowledging him. And one day he wanted to kill Vasishta if he doesn't acknowledge. But then at the time, Vasishta was telling his wife, look at the radiance of the moon. There's only one thing which is more effulgent than this. That is the tapas of Vishwamitra, much brighter. So at that time he was moved and he falls at the feet. Remember that story? I told that. Okay. So this is the story of how with his Maitriya, he is able to defeat King Kaushika. That is, Vasishta is able to defeat King Kaushika. So most people view strength as an offensive force, the ability to change the world through external power. In yoga, bala is an internal stability that makes the yogi's mind a fixed point around which the world itself bends. When King Kaushika tried to steal Vasishta's cow by force, he was using physical and celestial strength. So you remember, Kaushika wants to steal Vasishta's cow, because the cow, Kamadhenu, can give, is a granter of desires, can feed an entire army. That's how Vasishta fed the entire army of the king. Now, what Vasishta does is, he has his danda, the stick, and it's called the Brahma Danda. He just puts that before him. And all the weapons that Kaushika, the king, is using are all getting absorbed into the stick. Kaushika unleashed the most terrifying astras, weapons. Vasishta simply placed his wooden staff, Brahmadanda, in front of him. The staff absorbed every weapon. The symbolism, staff represents the yogi's unshakable focus. Because Vasishtha had saṃyama and friendliness, his mind was devoid of the hooks of anger or fear. The physicality of peace. The logic dictates that for a weapon to cause harm, it must meet resistance. If there's no resistance, the weapon will just pass through. Because Vasishtha's mind was established in a state of friendliness. These are celestial weapons he's using. Even the friendliness, even towards the attacker, there was no internal friction for the weapons to catch on to. The fire of Kaushika's weapons was extinguished by the coolness of Vasishtha's compassion. Moral, the velocity of transformation. The real strength of Vasishtha's friendliness was not that it defeated Kaushika, but that it transformed him. Kaushika realized that the worldly power was ashes compared to the bala of a sage. The strength of a sage is supreme. The realization set Kaushika on the path to becoming Brahma Rishi Vishwamitra. So the story conveys that the strengths gained in 3.24 are not for ego gratification, but it serves as a spiritual shield that protects the yogi and elevates the opponent. It proves that a mind established in Maitri is the strongest force in the world. Okay. Then the next strength, Baleshu Hasti Baladini, by saṃyama, the strength of an elephant, the strength of that entity here, the elephant is obtained. Similarly, by saṃyama, the strength of Garuda, you get this. The Garuda is eagle, which is Lord Vishnu's mount. And then strength on Vayu, the wind, you get the qualities of the wind. So power of the king of birds, then the power of the wind, by saṃyama on that, strength of the wind is obtained. Vachaspati Mishra clarifies this is not a genetic trait, but a siddha bala, perfection of power. Usually our physical strength is determined by genetics and training. The yogi is effectively performing dharana on their own prana and will. Saṃyama creates an internal density, effectively allowing the physical body to act as a generator of colossal force. That is through focus, by channeling the prana. Okay. Next, the knowledge of the subtle and concealed things. So we'll take 5 to 10 minutes more. Astronomy and anatomy. Okay. The next 8 sutras, we will study that. Pravritya lokanyasat sukshmapyavahita viprakrishta jnanam. Pravritya lokanyasat. Pravritti literally here means activity, or it's a specific type of activity. What kind of fine activity linked to the sattvic nature of the mind? That is the Vishokava Jyotishmati from 1.36. So if you remember, in the first chapter, we studied the different anchors for meditation. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksham also comes in. And then there's one which says, by meditating on the Vishokava Jyotishmati, the sorrow-free effulgence in the mind, mind becomes calm. So that is what is referred to here. So this is characterized, I've shown this many times. This is the mind in a state of calm without any ripples, like a perfect reflection of the moon in a lake, like that. Okay. So Vishokava Jyotishmati on by meditation on this Jyotishmati. So what is this? By directing the light of cognition, aloka means light. By pravritti alokanyasat, by on this directing the light of cognition on by focusing on the sattvic nature of the mind. So the whole thing refers to, by directing the light of cognition means by focusing on this sattvic nature of the mind. When you see the calm state of the mind, what is revealed? Sukshma vyavahita viprakrishta jnanam. Sukshma means subtle objects. Vyavahita means hidden objects. Viprakrishta means remote objects you can't even see. Something somewhere in the corners of the universe. You get all those knowledge. By projecting the inner light of refined sensory activity, pravritti, onto the objects, knowledge of that which is subtle, hidden, or distant is acquired. So you get yourself to that state, and then you visualize the you let your mind onto what is happening in the farthest reaches of the universe. Then all those will be revealed, even though you don't know, you can't see the farthest reaches of the universe. But when you calm that mind to that state and you want to know what's going on, that will be revealed. Commentators and sub-commentators say ordinary human sight and hearing are limited because they must obey the physical laws of the elements, mahabhutas. Distance and density are barriers. Through saṃyama on this refined pravritti, yogi's mind itself dissolves its identity with the dense elements. The inner light is essentially the luminosity of the sattva guna, freed from the blockages of rajas and tamas. This is the most important thing. It is we who are creating all the blocks. When the mind is sattvic, it is like sattva is light, so the density is gone. It's able to permeate, it's able to go everywhere. Vachaspati Mishra argues that this is not a magic trick, but a highly refined form of direct perception, pratyaksha. It allows the yogi to bypass intermediate physical steps and make direct contact on the energetic, at the energetic tanmatra level. Okay. Then Patanjali says, knowledge of the universe and astrology. Bhuvana jnanam surye saṃyamat. Okay. Surya means the sun, but here it does not refer to the physical sun. It refers to what is called Surya Tvara. It's a solar entrance. So the solar entrance, by saṃyama on the solar entrance, knowledge of the various worlds is obtained. The solar entrance is not in the sun, it is inside the body. So Swami Hariharananda says, by performing saṃyama on a specific internal focal point located within the heart complex, this which they call the solar entrance, you understand the knowledge of various worlds. This internal sun, why is it called the sun? Because it represents sattva or purity. It is identical to activating the source of latent effulgent light free from sorrow, which we saw in 1.36. Vishokava jyotihi. The logical mechanism for gaining knowledge of the universe works as follows. You're using this inward light as a catalyst. So there is the macrocosm and there is a microcosm. They are kind of images. It's just that the theories say that the macrocosm is at a greater scale, the microcosm is at a smaller scale. So what we call as Ishvara, the physical body of the Ishvara, is the entire, or God is the entire universe. And the consciousness reflecting on that, the subtle aspect of it, is the mind of God. So in the Vedanta, they have three terms. There are three bodies, right? What are, does anybody know? Can tell me what are the three layers, the three bodies we have?
Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira?
Yes. The physical body, Sula Shariram, or the gross body, the Sukshma Shariram, or the subtle body, and the causal body, which contains the seed, everything resolves. Even Pralayam, it remains alive. The other two are gone at Pralayam. The first one is gone immediately, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, it's gone. Okay. So in the microscopic level, this is called Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna. At the cosmic level, it's called Virat, Hiranyagarbha, Antaryami. So it's all these are reflections. So by performing saṃyama, on or gaining the knowledge of how it works, then what happens is that the macrocosm can be reflected in the microcosm. That is the logical mechanism. By performing saṃyama on this internal solar entrance, the yogi doesn't enter the nadi channel to fly around like you see Journey inside the human body. No. Like Steven Spielberg movie. No, that's not what's happening. Rather, the intense pure light of sattva floods the chitta, which is seated in the heart, and it reveals these things. This perfect activation of the light clears rajas agitation and tamas inertia from the chitta. This is the mechanism. Okay, it is not some magic trick. Swami Hariharananda says it is a systematic effort by which you let sattva shine, which is the Jyotishmati, the light. This perfectly clarified luminous mind then becomes capable of flawlessly reflecting objective macroscopic reality, thereby revealing the total structure and functional flow of the bhuvana universe without obstruction. Okay, now and then another thing is the following sutra is Chandre Tara Vyuha Jnanam. I talked about the solar entrance. There's also something called a lunar entrance in the body. By the saṃyama, the lunar entrance, the knowledge of the arrangement of stars is obtained. So Swami Hariharananda clarifies that in the context of this sutra, moon does not refer to the external planetary satellite, but refers to the lunar entrance within the body. The moon here refers to the internal gateway through which a sukshma shariram travels at the time of death. He noticed that while those who travel via the solar entrance, okay, I'll come to that point later. So these are the lunar solar entrances. By the solar entrance, saṃyama on the solar entrance, you increase the sattva guna, you have knowledge of the other worlds. By saṃyama on the lunar entrance, knowledge of the arrangement of stars is obtained. Now with this, we will go into, so we have a few more minutes. I'll take some extra time. So we will look at Jyotish. Okay, we will study the Jyotish now a little bit. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, all right. So now there was a great rishi called Parashara. Parashara was the father of Vyasa Maharishi, not the Vyasa, the commentator of the Yoga Sutras. This is Vyasam Vasishta Naptaram Shakte Pautramakalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukatatam Taponitim. So this Vyasa is the son of Parashara and Vasishta's great grandson. So Vasishta, we have seen, it is that he wrote the Mahabharata. I'm talking about that Vyasa. So Vyasa's father was Parashara. Maharishi Parashara, the grandson of Vasishta and the father of Vyasa, is considered the Pitamaha of Vedic astrology, Jyotish. His definitive work, the Bible of Jyotish, everybody who knows Jyotish would refer to this work. It's called Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. It is not just a book of mathematical calculation. It is a comprehensive blueprint of the universe functional relationship with the human destiny. So the macrocosm is reflected in the microcosm. Okay. One scientific way to look at it is moon, moon affects, exerts force on the water, tides, right? We are 75% or 70% water. So the planets do exert a force on us. And that is systematic. This is a scientific way of looking at it, but in a much deeper sense, it is the macrocosm and reflecting in the microcosm. So that pattern also affects the inner pattern. The text is framed as a dialogue. His disciple, sage Maitreya, approaches Parashara with a foundational cosmological question. O holy sage, who knows all the Shastras, how was this universe created? How will it dissolve? And most importantly, how do the celestial bodies, the grahas, the constellations, the nakshatras, and the signs, the rashis, influence the fruits of individual karma? How would it trigger certain things in your life, certain proclivities that the body has, and the passage of time, kala? Maitreya was asking for complete structural and functional knowledge of the bhuvana. Bhuvana, worlds. This is not a request that could be answered by observation over one lifetime. It required cosmic perception. So what did Parashara do? He performs an act of internal visualization. He did not respond by consulting previous books or physical observations. While the narrative focuses on the dialogue, the inner reality is that Parashara performed a very specific saṃyama on the sun. That is the internal solar entrance. He was not looking at the external sun, nor was he engaging in critical analytical thought. He was not saying, oh, logically this. No. He activated the pure sattva with his clarified mind in the state of sattva guna, the purity, in the state of profound absorption. Jyotisha, he flooded his chitta, his mirror, and the revelation of the bhuvana happens. In that instant of perfect reflection, the entire multidimensional system of Jyotisha was revealed to him. He perfectly perceived the mathematical relationships of the zodiac, positions of the fixed stars, all that. And he also understood the logic of karma. He saw not just where the planets were, how their position act as direct indicators or revelators of individual and collective prarabdha karma. Okay, so this is the summary. This is how the knowledge was revealed. It is not by using telescopes or sending satellites and missions to Mars or anything. It is through saṃyama on the solar entrance. Okay. Now, would you like to know a little about Jyotish now, or do you want to do it in another class? Yeah, you want to know? Okay. I cannot tell, I have no words to tell how profound this subject is. So this is a Shastra, and it has to be approached with reverence. It is a sacred subject. Personally, I have learned so much. So one of the common mistakes, a lot of people, especially Indian people who have science degrees, they tend to scoff, poo, all this thing. They say, oh, how can you predict the future? You can't. This doesn't predict the future, but it tells certain proclivities. When the planets are in a certain arrangement, it exerts a certain gives a certain proclivity to the individual, and that is what is studied. Then the probability you can do something will be high. Probability that you can do something else would be a little low, because you have that you're flowing with you're going with the tide and not against the tide. Okay, that's what it tells. Now what it shows is that the entire band around us, it's divided into 30-degree segments, 12 30-degree segments. Here, as far as Jyotish is concerned, you are the center. Standing on the earth, you are the center, and around you there's this big band. Okay, this band is called the ecliptic, and the 30-degree segments, each segment has its own certain quality. Okay, the names given to these segments, so they're Mesha, Aries, which means a ram, then Vrishabha, Taurus, a bull, Mithuna, Gemini, these are the twins, Karkata, Cancer, crab. So there's a lot. Simha, Leo, that's a lion. Does it mean there are stars which look like a lion? No, absolutely not. It's a common misconception for lay people. No, this is just a band. This 30-degree has a certain quality. That's all it is. Why does it start with Aries ram? Not because stars look like a ram, but because the guna, quality of that space. This is represents a head, a ram with its head. It just bores through all the obstacles like that. This is the starting point. It has that quality. It is the head of the Kala Purusha. That is the time. It is the seat, Aramba, beginning, and Agni, fire. Symbol of ram, Aries, was chosen because it represents the force of a new beginning pushing forward with the head. Physical stars of the Aries constellation happen to be in the vicinity. So they serve as a visual mnemonic for that specific 30-degree energy. Okay. Now, math of the sky. Divide the 360-degree circle of the elliptic. Okay, so at the horizon in the morning, there's 30-degree, then there's another 30-degree, and all that. These are called rashis, the 12 rashis. So 360 divided by 12, 30 degrees per rashi. Then you do a little more finer analysis. You can also divide it into nakshatras. So these nakshatras are, again, the same 360 degree can be divided into 27 nakshatras with 13 degree 20 minutes each. And there are padas. Each nakshatra occupies this much angle, and it has 4 padas, 3 degrees 20 minutes per pada. Therefore, and the magic number is 9. 9 times 3 degrees 20 is 30 degrees. So there are 9 padas per rashi. So if you see this chart here, Mesha, there's 3 nakshatras involved, but only 1/4 of Kritika nakshatra. And this is how the whole thing is arranged. Okay. So typically when you look at the chart, they'll say is you are born in Simha Rashi. So which means when you were born, what is the Rashi in the horizon? So you have the horizon where it's coming, and then all the way to the end, and it continues below in the earth. So it's a full circle around you. What is the Rashi in which you were born? That is it gives you a lot of characteristic when you are born. That is when the prana starts flowing in you. That's the time of birth. That gives you certain quality. Okay, and then the nakshatra. Okay, so and then also where the moon is at that time, in which point, which 30-degree portion the moon is, that also it's called the Janma Nakshatra. It is the Janma Rashi, which means the moon represents the mind. That's why they say Mercury it's like a fickle like the moon. It represents the mind. What it means is that it gives a lot of this predicts the individual's mental makeup. Okay, so these two, the Janma Rashi and the lunar sign and the birth sign. Those are the 2 things that are important. Okay, now, so the sky, I said, is treated as 360-degree circular field called the elliptic around you. The same 360-degree circle is divided into either 12 rashis or 27 nakshatras. They overlap. Each rashi is 30 degrees wide. They are not constellations. Each sign has a particular quality, field, or mode of expression. The 27 nakshatras are a finer division of the 360-degree circle. Each nakshatra is 13 degree 20 seconds, and each nakshatra is divided into 4 padas, and each of the 3 degree 20 seconds, okay, and 9 of them constitute 360 degrees or constitute 30 degrees. So the planets relate to the signs in 2 ways. When a planet, so you have all these signs, right? Now the planets are moving everywhere. Now when the planet is placed in a sign, the planet does not stop being itself, but it expresses through the atmosphere of that sign. Mars, for example, represents energy, courage, action, aggression, cutting, initiative, all that. if Mars is in Aries, Mars is in a fiery, direct, action-oriented sign. Aries is the beginning one. It pushes through, right? So Mars can express itself very naturally. Quick action, courage, initiative, boldness. If Mars is in Cancer, Mars is in a watery, emotional, protective sign. The Mars energy may become protective, defensive, emotionally reactive, or indirect. So the rule is planet is the force, the sign is the style in which that force expresses. Similarly, each sign has a planetary ruler, meaning a planet that governs or owns that. Aries is ruled by Mars. We saw that Aries has Mars-like qualities. Similarly, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Taurus has Venus-like beauty, stability, pleasure, comfort, value, and sensuality. Okay, so I've kind of given you an idea of the whole thing. I mean, Jyotish is a very detailed study. We can't go into everything, but I've just given you a taste of what it is. Okay. With that, I think we have to stop the recording.